everybody, and welcome to the Penelope Possum channel. What is going on with my hair? Where it is Spooky Scary Saturday and that's interesting. Just a moment. See, on my screen, it was on bright mode. In just a moment, I gotta go fix my hair. Okay, I'm back. I fixed my hair. I am short. Anyways, today we're gonna be reading a creepypasta like we were supposed to do last time, but we didn't because I didn't wanna. Yeah. Here we go. Okay, so, I learned from last time we're not going to do the spooky music. I might add some spooky music afterwards. That way I don't fuck up the audio. But this time I don't have to be quiet because Exploder Jones isn't here right now. He's at work. I just checked the channel today. We're at 47 subscribers, guys. We're almost to 50. At 50, I'll have a video recorded showing everybody my computer innards. But can you believe it? And we're also close to 50 episodes of Spooky Scary Saturdays, guys. We are at 46 now. 46 episodes of Spooky. Can you believe it? It has been such a wild ride, and I really hope that I continue to reach more people, and I hope, if nothing else, I don't want to be popular, honestly. That's not an ideal situation for me. I just want to make people happy. I want to make people smile. I want to bring a little bit of joy into people's lives. That's all I want. And seeing my subscriber count go up means that I'm seeing more people are seeing me, and hopefully more people are enjoying my content. So subscribe or don't if you enjoy my content, but if you do subscribe, you'll be more likely to see it when it comes up. And like the video, I guess, if you feel like it. At the end of the day, whatever you do is up to you. Comments are appreciated. Links to other stories are appreciated. I provide links to videos and stories used in my videos. And I always provide proper credits. Always credit the original artist or authors. Okay, so let's get into the creepypasta. Hello. Oh, we have only 2 craft products right now. One completed and one incompleted. We have a trans pride pin for a friend of mine. She's currently going through the process of transitioning, and I want to support her in any way I can. And a new hair accessory that I'm hoping will be ready for the next Spooky Scary Saturday, which is going to be a creepy little eyeball barrette. I'm going to have to glue it onto the barrette, but that's a different monkey for a different time. Let's get to the spooky spaghettis. This is the Axeman's Lullaby. Published on May 18th, 2020. So it's been 4 years since this has been published. It was written by Christopher Maxim. Thank you, Mr. Christopher or Mrs. Christopher Maxim. Edited by Craig Groshek. And thumbnail art has been by Craig Groshek as well. There is no current narrator of this, so I'm going to be the first person to narrate this. It's pretty cool. No available audio adaptations, and the estimated reading time is 6 minutes. The rating is 9.10 out of 10 from 10 votes, so we don't really know what we're getting into with this, so let's just get right into it. When I was just a kid, I didn't know any better. Even if I could go back, what would I have done differently? Could I have changed what happened? Could I have done anything at all? Probably not. Even so, I can't help but dwell on the details. Some nights it keeps me from sleeping. I can only hope that sharing my tale will help ease the burden. I don't remember much of my childhood before my mother passed away. My dad told me she was struck by a car on the way to work. I was only 4 years old. Still, I know that I loved her. Part of me still does. It's a strange, lingering feeling that doesn't go away. As much as I loved her, I feel that my father loved her even more. I say this because mother's death, editing possum. I say this because my mother's death took an immense toll on him. Up until I was about 10 years of age, he would always have a nervous breakdown, tears and all, at least once a month. He never told me why, but I knew it was because of her. Things changed a bit my 10th year. We moved out of that house, the one that reminded us of her. My dad pulled me out of the school system and we moved into a cabin out in the middle of nowhere. It may seem a bit drastic, but it was clear my father needed a change. He wasn't doing so well. Because of this, I didn't question his actions. From that point on, we lived a very simple life. My dad took odd jobs here and there, seeing as we lived up north, selling firewood was sufficient enough to supplement our income. That was my job. I would go out each morning with my dad's old axe and chop up some logs for our eager customers. It wasn't much of a life, but it was good enough for us. Comfortable with our new living situation, I was taken completely off guard one night when I heard the sound of crying coming from my father's room. We'd been doing so well, so why was he still in such dire straits? Before I could analyze the situation any further, I heard my dad get up and slam the door shut on his way out of the cabin. I was compelled to follow him. Peeking out of the cabin's entrance, I saw my dad storm off into the woods, bringing with him an acoustic guitar. I'd never seen this guitar before, and I knew my dad used to play it, but I'd never seen him handle the thing. I figured those years were behind him. Curious as to what he was up to, I followed him into the forest. I tiptoed, making sure to hide behind the trees and avoid stepping on leaves as I went. Eventually, we came to a small clearing with a creek running through it. Near the creek was a stump where my dad sat down and adjusted himself until he was comfortable, closed his eyes, and began playing. I stood in awe at what I was hearing. A haunting mixture of melodious vocals and the rustling of trees in the wind-filled forest. I knew he played, but I never knew he could sing. It was breathtaking, for lack of a better word. This went on as often as my dad had breakdowns in our previous house. Each night it happened, I would follow my dad out into the woods and listen to the beautiful song he'd seemingly written. I didn't know what it all meant, but I could tell even at age 10 that it stemmed from a place of great pain. I could tell that the somber, heartfelt tune was about losing a loved one. Whenever I tried to picture my mother, the image was always blurry until out of focus. Almost as if it was what little memory I had of her was slipping away. Whenever my dad played his song, I could picture her crystal clear. It was the oddest thing. This brought me comfort and ultimately helped me come to terms with her death. I hoped at the time that it was doing the same for him. Being 10 years old, though, it was hard to tell what was going through an adult's mind. Many months passed. The routine was nice for a while, but one night, everything changed. I heard the usual swing of the cabin door, followed by a swift crack against the door frame. It was very loud, signaling to me that my father was more distressed than usual. I hastily made my way to the door in an effort to follow him, but I stopped for a moment when passing his bedroom. The door was open just enough for me to see the guitar leaning up against his bed. How peculiar, I wondered why he'd left that behind. In truth, there was only one way to find out. My dad was already by the creek when I arrived. He sat on the stump, motionless and quiet. He was in a sulking position, and his eyes were closed. Without his guitar or voice, the forest around him was void of sound. The only thing I could hear was the water in the creek as it trickled by us. Soon enough, my father began singing. I could tell it was the same song he'd always sung, but it sounded off without his guitar. His voice was muddy and out of tune. There were some awkward highs and lows that made my stomach turn. Though his eyes were shut, I saw tears force their way out and watched as they swam down his cheeks. Eventually, he stopped singing and broke down crying. What happened in the following moments will stay with me forever. As my father wept, something strange happened. A milky white fog danced across the water. At first, I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me, but eventually the white smoke gathered above the creek and took shape before my very eyes. It was a spirit. No ordinary spirit, mind you. It was my mother. My father stopped crying and instead began shivering. He opened his eyes and looked up to see the specter. He almost fell backward in fear. The ghost of my mother reached out and began choking my father. His face went from red to blue before my mom stopped. He fell to the ground, vigorously grasped for air. I couldn't bring myself to lend a helping hand. I was stuck in a petrified state. My father tried to crawl away, but it was no use. My mother began clawing away at him. She tore through his clothes and eventually his skin. I watched in horror as she reached into his body and reaped out his vital organs. His bones snapped like branches. His blood tainted the water. His voice again filled the forest. Only now it was screams of agony. I couldn't bear to watch any longer, so I closed my eyes. With eyes shut, I remembered the song my dad sang. I started humming it to myself, and just like that, I calmed down. The world became quiet. All I could think about was the song, that beautiful tune. Memories of my parents came through the floodgates as I hummed. Tears rolled down my cheeks. I couldn't help but fall apart. What had my childhood become? Where was I to go from here? Eventually, I stopped humming and opened my eyes. The apparition of my mother was gone. My dad's open corpse lay on the stump where he used to sing. As the scene before me sunk in, so did my heart. It crawled into the pit of my stomach and made a nest. It would stay there for many years to come. I don't remember running back to the cabin, nor do I recall calling the local authorities. What I do remember was the look on their faces when they took me back out there and saw what I had seen. The sight of my father's body was a grisly one. That's for sure. It was unlike anything the town had ever witnessed. Still, it was taken care of in a swift and respectful fashion. In the coming months, the investigation came to an end. The true cause of my father's death was never determined. But that doesn't mean there were no answers found. My mother's body was discovered buried beneath the creek. My father's axe was determined to be the murder weapon. One of the theories floating around the town was that my dad was the jealous type. They think he convinced himself my mom was having an affair, then lost his marbles. Feeling guilty, he moved us out near the dump site so he could be closer to her. I guess we'll never know the full story. But one thing is for certain. My mother had her revenge. Okay. Wow. That was pretty crazy. I don't say I could have expected that to happen. But it did. Oh my good lordy. Holy moly. Well, we've got plenty of time left, so we're gonna do one more creepypasta, and if we have enough time, we're gonna watch a video. Okay, this is The Glass Darkly, written by Dale Thompson, edited by Greg Groshek, thumbnail art by Craig Groshek, narrated by nobody yet. There are no available audio adaptations, and the estimated reading time is 15 minutes. The current rating stands at 10 out of 10 from 2 votes, so I'm hoping for something good. As I wipe the mirror clean of the settled dust, the chaff, the ash, I, in fact, am embracing the last fingerprints known to exist of the one who only ever existed in my mind. It was real for me, though I am told unconvincingly not a single word of it's true, and disagreeably it never happened. Touching the wooden frame with my fingertips, knowing whose hand embraced this before me, all while dreading the purge I had been ordered to do. No proof, no remembrance. The only thing sustainable are the memories I can carry with me. I feel it is time I retreat into the kingdoms where my judgment is reserved by God and not man. Everything man touches, they, as a people, destroy. Humanity has been handed the keys to the kingdom, and yet, with the very hands in whom all things have been given, man seems determined to turn it all to nothing. The mirror does not lie, yet the dark, melanistic mood of a single candle lit casts shadows of worry and consternation. I am as alone as the wick, yet not burning as bright. Baleful inspirations of terror planted sensational fears in the psyche of impressionable people who rather disbelieve the macabre but are prone to religion and fabled superstitions. These have abandoned me in my vices. What vices? I have been made the fool, and my vices were never evil or crude. Yet because I spoke truth and detailed the account of my encounter with what can only be described as a ghost, I am not excommunicated. The monsters we fear are the monsters we have created. We become physically mortified by what we allow to circumvent and subvert us emotionally. We, when by our own will or pushed by an outside force, are made to divert from our standard way of life and become confronted by something worse feasting upon our first perceptions. It is difficult to see or admit or realize assuredly grotesque stems from our own imaginations. Ghosts only exist once we breathe life into the horrible specters. When these manifestations of machination materialize and take shape before our own eyes, we need no convincing. We know they are real. Yet we ask the all-important question, have we not gone mad? How else can we explain the existence of such things in the natural unless they come from the other side? Knowingly or unknowingly, I believe the possibility of us conjuring themselves is likely. I have fallen victim to my own fearful doing. There is a truth to the occurrence of which I speak. I have come under the barrage of skepticism and personal attacks upon my character, and yet they have not convinced me nor turned me from what I know happened. I do struggle at times. I straddle a fence of conviction, asking myself, was it real? All efforts to discredit me have been launched, but with futile efforts, for I remain convinced I most assuredly experienced the paranormal. Twice I have suffered permanent scratches and corrugations on my back, arms, and chest from an invisible force that assaulted my flesh. As extraordinary as it all may sound, I have gained nothing since my initial reports of the phenomenon. At the start of the disturbances, the visitations were not hostile, provisional, without the threat of violence, but something has shifted. The mood has grown darker, changed, causing the entity with whom I had believed I had a mutual rapport with has assailed me with malevolence more than once, victimizing me to the threshold of insolence and threat of death. I have fallen ignominiously out of its good graces. The upper tier of my social associations, friends, acquaintances, and colleagues, has deliberately become less than cordial. From their thermometric point of view, I am sorely outnumbered, of course, for no one is on my side. Dead set on defaming me publicly, they have said, in not so many words, that I have become reckless. I have become a blight to them, I have no intention of cooling down my rhetoric, and will burn bright to warn others before it's too late. Not one of them mitigated my care, which left me in such a precarious situation. I was not sufficiently prepared mentally for the railings against me. What was said about me was, and I quote, that I gravitated in willful prevarication and ignored the laws of nature, thus blasphemed God, while I attached myself to the unsavory phantasmagorical of the spiritually absurd. Pause. There's a lot of really big fucking words in this, and the possum's brain is not enormous. So I'm having a little bit of trouble reading this. Like, I'm gonna be honest, there's way too many big words for my tiny little peanut brain to understand. All the while, I was regularly being haunted by a ghost that hailed from the magnificent full-length mirror I so cherished. I was refuted at every stage, from every angle, and told in no uncertain terms erroneous belief in the existence of the supernatural outside of the church was eminently dangerous and worthy of expulsion. Frustrated, I argued vehemently, yet unconvincingly. I abstained from more ill banter and went my own way. I could not help their phantasmophobia. The mirror is a fascinating look into one's soul. If you ever take the time to sit in front of a polished mirror and ask hard, important questions about oneself, I wondered what I might see. Was it a portal into other dimensions? Could it predict the future for me? Maybe it was a window to the afterlife. I took a cold, hard look at myself, and what would I see? Illusion or the truth? I could accept the truth, or would I succumb? Could I accept the truth, or would I succumb to duplicitous dishonesty? The mirror was taken into my upstairs loft. I had purchased it from an antique dealer who maintained a humble store. Junk and disorderly, yet it held a decent collection of rarities. He had been in business for 40 years, and he gave me a bargain price. I thought I was robbing him. The mirror was pristine, and I believed the shopkeeper when he said it was from the 17th century. The joy of my newly acquired speculum was I could see myself and everything behind me. It wasn't long till I was spending hours at a time staring into the mirror, desperately believing if I simply worked at it, I could see what was directly behind my own reflection. These existential thoughts were probably not healthy. Yet I found myself spiraling down into preconceptions, down into the catacombs of imaginaries that were dreamt and were not really there. I was not fooled, but I will admit I was obsessed, spending unhealthy durations of... I was not fooled, but I will admit I was obsessed, spending unhealthy durations convinced there was more there than met the eye. I do not know what possessed and drove my fascination, but I can only say that at the time it was something I had to do. This inanimate fixture, newly acquired, quickly became my favorite piece of furniture, gazing past my own reflection. Now, I now wonder what I was hoping to see. I was not seeing ghosts, dreams, murders, not even a simple revelation concerning my own existence. Over time, I have reflected on my mortality. Although not a single lingering ghost made themselves known, I pressed my face against the glass and attempted to look deep in and upwards in anticipation of seeing anything out of the direction of reflection. Regardless of how intently I applied myself, all I received were smudges that I wiped away and was not willing to conceptualize and make up something untrue just to satisfy myself. If there was nothing there, then it was not there. I took a bed sheet and carefully draped it over the mirror, pulled back the corner and peeked in. Of course it was too dark. I treated more light, a lantern, more candles, and repeated the experiment. Maybe it was my own vanity preventing the mirror from revealing more? Could not be. My fixation was the mirror, not on my own appearance. But what about my vanity for knowledge? I had to consider it. No anonymities or fragment of realities, no smoke, puffy clouds, or apparitions were expressed or revealed. If the mirror concealed secrets, it was not giving up its phantoms. The frustration was becoming more than I could bear. I convinced myself there was more. I was certain the mirror was unknowingly dark, without 1 ounce of regard to how I was feeling. I was not asking for much. I only wanted a glimpse, to reassure myself, for the sake of piqued interest, that I was not alone. I did not want to believe I was inconsequential. If I could only see one hint of something otherworldly, I could shake this feeling of insignificance which had gnawed at me for as long as I could remember. I comforted myself with food. My favorite was a dish of little mushrooms dripping in butter and olive oil. Dinner was at 6 p.m. Routine I never broke. It was a sweltering summer's night. The heat was unbearable, reproachable. The humidity was insufferable. Draped in a bedsheet, I was at my wit's end, unable to accept that I had lost. I was so close to giving up. One last time. I will remove the sheet, I said, without an ounce of faith. No expectations. I jerked the sheet away and let it fall to the floor. Nothing materialized. There was no gateway or black hole. There was nothing staring back from the mirror except my own perfectly mirrored self. I felt my head drop with the disappointment rising and teeming over the brim of rationale. I could only attribute this deep despondency to my own inadequacies. Wait, what did I just see? Something in the mirror. What is it? It was a fingerprint. I had not seen that print before. I strictly cleaned the mirror every time I visited it, sweating bullets from this oppressive infernal attic. Right before my eyes, absolutely positive, I see a second print from the other side of the glass. I took the edge of the bedsheet and attempted to wipe the glass clean, but the 2 prints remained, and the 3rd and the 4th were pressed against the glass. I wiped the prints again. The glass would not come clean. I decided to place my fingers against the prints newly formed. Impulse-driven, with bare fingertips, I pressed them against the glass. It was icy cold to the touch. It was so chilling it burned. I was compelled to push harder and harder till I pushed. I pushed until my fingers were penetrating the glass. The glass did not break. It did not crack. It withstood every pound of pressure. I closed my eyes, feeling my arm freeze up to my elbow. I felt a hand. It was not from inside the mirror. Someone touched my shoulder on this side of the glass. I opened my eyes and looked into the mirror. My reflection was not alone. Standing to the right of my own image was a clear image of someone, something otherworldly. I do not know why. I began to laugh, but I laughed. Maybe it was fear, maybe joy. I felt like I was somebody. I had achieved my aim, and now I question what purpose. Honestly, what was the purpose? The image standing behind me was as real as you and me. The hand on my shoulder was frigid, but I did not mind. My blood quickened. I was smiling, slightly flushed. I wanted to speak, and unspeakable words came into my head. Like foreign occupiers trespassing my notions, binding my tongue. The person, yes, it was the shape of a person, was not allowing me to utter a word. We stood gazing at our reflection silently for the longest time. Truthfully, I marveled. I thought to myself, this is what is commonly known as supernatural. I was unequivocally taken with the manifestation. I wondered how it saw me. Could it be my reflection in a distant universe? I wondered. I would soon discover the answer. It may interest you to know my great satisfaction. Our meetings were a daily occurrence. I believed we had increased kinship, though words were never spoken until one evening. I went to the attic to call my friend and noticed the bedsheet I had draped over the mirror had been dropped from the mirror to the floor. And the awful thing had come to me. We were sharing a moment of intimacy between 2 worlds. But now the manifestation had broken our bond. I would have thought it to be a dream, but the sweat pouring from me and the pain I felt from the intentional scratches assured me it was real. I found this peculiar because it would have taken a strong wind to blow the sheet off. This was a windless attic. Only a person could have removed the sheet. I gazed into the mirror, but I only saw my reflection. I touched the mirror with the tips of my fingers. I felt, shockingly, out from behind the mirror, not from within the mirror. Appeared the manifestation. It materialized. Eyes I had never known. It was blacker than anything I had ever seen. A bitter taste filled the air like wormwood. I took a cautionary step as it emerged, looming grimly over me. Insolently, it approached me. I restrained my fear, but its impudence was unforgivable. With a haughty sneer, it addressed me for the first time. Did you believe I was your plaything? Did you imagine you could simply call me and I'd be here? I hardly knew what to say. Its voice was harsh and dry, morbidly bland, lacking personality. Oh, hold on. I'm gonna reread that sentence in a harsh, dry, and morbidly bland, lacking personality voice. Did you believe I was your plaything? Did you imagine you could simply call me and I would be there? That's the best I can do. Now I'm gonna have to reread that. I hardly knew what to say. Its voice was harsh and dry, morbidly bland, lacking personality. An emulation of the weakest accosted me as a result of my discomfiture and embarrassment. I questioned myself. Had I taken this for granted? In my defense, I was crippled with infutility, so my thinking was scattered at best. I rationalized. My unrestrained imagination had obviously built a relationship based on my inability to see the whole picture. The manifestation smashed one of my lights in what could only be defined as a vociferous tantrum. This was no spook or simple spectre. This was a large, dark, and menacing manifestation, magnified and angry for an unknown reason. I had invited it to my terrestrial world. This was my problem. I want out, it demanded. I reassured it with quivering lips. But you are out. I cannot leave the mirror. I can only go where the mirror goes. It informed me, acting as though it was about to destroy more of my property. I stood enthralled, still amazed by my will, by my hands, that I had released it from the mirror. The implied violence was vexing. The applied rage was troubling on a level I was unfamiliar with. Don't you like it up here in my attic? I was naive. I screwed up because it attacked me. The manifestation yelled in my face, pushed me to the floor, mounted me, and began to smash me in several punishing blows to my head, chest, and arms. I turned onto my belly and began to crawl for my life, but was quickly apprehended and dragged across the floor by its claws, hooked into my flesh by my back. The impossible truth was the moment between breath and death. I saw lights throwing out a yellow glare, strange footfalls, and hiss like a viper. The curtain of acrid black smoke rolled down from the ceiling, like smoke from a crematory. I thought, life happens, and then we die. It is fleeting. I am nothing more than a drop of water in a bit of a sea. I was betrayed by my own lack of ability. I held out my hand to him as he flipped me on my back on my back. Can you free me? His black sidereal eyes burned a hole through me. Looking at him uneasily, I mumbled something pathetic in a taciturn way. My hypothesis turned into superstition by my calculations. Nothing added up in my linear world, although The pain from the pummeling hurt. I knew I was bleeding. I was rationalizing the event. I almost believed it was likely I was in its world of relative, in immense spaces where life was undefined. When I looked at the manifestation, all I saw was malice behind its eyes. A thought came to me. In hell, fires always burn brightly. With my senses dulled, a funereal atmosphere left me as a corpse, rooted to the floor. I was unable to stand. My mind was teetering on the realm of madness. The amorphous manifestation gazed upon me with its formidable face. My face was horribly impassive, mainly from its threatening tone. I collapsed under the immense clamor which filled the air. I was struggling to breathe. The manifestation pulled me to my feet. It was glowing like liquid glass, refracting, pixelating, with shriving shards, transparent where my complexion had changed. I have discolored myself. I had not foreseen and was totally unprepared for the beating and abuse I had unjustly received. It was showing no contrition. It was utterly inhuman, caught up in provocation, plunging its darkness into my chest. I ached. I moaned. This was not hypnagogic scrying. I was doomed to obsidian divination. I will admit my adversity invariably left me exhausted, shaken. I should have listened to my friends and colleagues when they warned me of this fascination of mine and attachment to the mirror was approaching demonology, which I say is founded entirely on deception. I explained to my friends, beseeching them, the mirror conceals what it wants to conceal. I was honest up until this time. I had not succeeded. Disappointingly, no ecstatic revelations had come to light. Yet I was hopeful. They mocked me, which only encouraged me even more. I saw the light. However, what a fool I had been. All I wanted was famished commentaries and supplementary interpretations from the mirror. Due to indirect excitation, something outside of the manifestation was dominating my soul. I cursorily heard it speak again. Can you free me? Do we have a bargain? Yes, I can. Give me a chance. I was facilitated by my own fixation, strained expectations and repositories of memory which were like flashbulbs exploding in my mind. Get me out of here, the manifestation ordered. I cannot unless you free me first. I can move the mirror and you can leave the attic. I negotiated. I had to think of something fast, because I had the impression my time was short otherwise. My transcendental capacities were exposed to a salient fact. This was no striking hallucination. It was the personification of significant propensity. This momentarily caused me to pause. The manifestation allowed me to approach the mirror as I struggled to maintain an upright position while traversing the dark regions of sanity. I had to find a reason in myself to free this incorporeal being. although it eclipsed my expectations and contradicted my thoughts. I knew the importance of saving myself. It had already alienated me from my innermost self. It was a powerful mesmerizer, unfathomably able to cause insensibility and cataleptic torpidity in one's heart. Could we use some shorter words, please? I found myself trapped in an alternate consciousness, sliding the enormous mirror across my attic floor. Free me. Free me. The manifestation demanded as I pushed the mirror to the edge of the staircase. I focused my attention on survival. My every intention was to push the mirror hands-free down the steps so that it would shatter into a million pieces. As I stood contemplating the manifestation breathing icy air down my wounded back, I had a thought. Right? I don't think the British voice I'm giving it is helping it at all. But, like, the wording makes this guy sound like a gigantic, pretentious British douchebag or English professor or both. I had a thought. Darkness, unlit even by a ray of light, was no more than a bottom. But my logic dictates unambiguously that knowledge is limited to a beginning and end. I concluded immortality could not be understood in this life. Perceptible reality always exists. It is impossible for me to erase more the mental picture, the landscapes, even in my unconscious soul. The knowledge of external reality is no more than an incrustation of my intellect, obscured and inglorious, undeniably erroneous. I leaned back and took a deep breath. With all my might, I laid into the mirror in order to force the mirror down the steep steps. My thoughts desiccated like an old well in the Arizona desert. I felt hands all over my body. They seemed to be struggling, lowering me down. The effects of asphyxiation were present, but slowly wearing off. Neurologically, I felt fine. No one could determine how long I had been hanging there by the neck, dangling with my feet inches from the floor. I had retrograde amnesia, did not remember the act itself. My cervical spine was still intact and uninjured, but I was partially paralyzed on one side of my face, and I would shortly recover from it. The thoughts had augmented inside my cranium to the degree that had contributed to my delusion and suicide attempt. The doctors confirmed this by saying it was my friends who had saved me by cutting the rope. They incontestably agreed with this final analysis of the near-tragic event. All liability was cast upon me. It robbed my aspiration, leaving me practically lifeless. I had no memory of the attempted hanging before I was heroically cut down from the rafters, which essentially was my own gibbet, and saved from the moment of death by strangulation. I would have never committed such an unforgivable act. It is what it is. I was labeled a weak-minded suicidal maniac who had freakish episodes and strange associations and entertained imaginary beings from the netherworld. I was considered unstrung and a danger to myself, and others had received the strongest condemnation as if I were criminal. I have prefaced my story, and unquestionably, it is the unvarnished truth. I am now in a place not of my choosing, but a facility I have been forced to reside in until I am diagnosed competent and in my right mind. At any rate, this quality time, away from the bombardments of insult and scorn I had currently received from those who claimed to be friends, where I am is now not so bad. Everything around me is dazzling white. The staff are polite, and they too are in white. To the satisfaction of all involved, I am assuredly, unarguably, I am better off. What family I have left have all forsaken me, but I have made friends here. I no longer see unwelcome ghosts, nor have conversations with the seen, unseen, or paranormal. I have had my fill of the phantasmagoric, the diffacious, transparent, or translucent. I have seen what I should not have seen, and suffered correspondingly when it would have been easier if I had not engaged at all. And I would be free of the provocation which had landed me in a secure place to rest. No more surrealistic events for me in here. In here I receive 3 hearty meals a day. I take in the fresh air of the gardens, which is medicine to my still throbbing brain. I have books to read. The library is rich in subject matter. There are games to play with my newly acquired friends, who, like me, are mostly not here of their will. I do not have to elicit approval from anyone. I merely need to get well, I am told. In here there are no mirrors, no true reflections. There is no way to clearly look at oneself, to examine, to reflect, to judge. There is no way to watch yourself fade away into old age. Creeping imprints impressed on the glass are not something that occur here. Since the medical world had decided best for my safety and overall well-being, I have been administered a cocktail of approved drugs. Remarkably, I do not see those imprints in my dreams anymore. Gee, I fucking wonder why, buddy. I think this guy just... I think his friends are right. I think he went off his fucking rocker. I think dude's lost his mind. For surezies. Probably breathed in too much mercury vapor or something and totally lost the plot of the story here. But whatever. I hope to be well and join normal life once again. You agree? Good. It is with much regret how diminished my thinking has become. The memories, no matter how horrible they were of that fateful grey, have regressed and faded down from my mind. I wonder how this turned out so ugly. I was informed at the time my friends had found me suspended and nearly dead. Yeah. He wanted to see something beyond the realm of the living so bad that he made it happen and then nearly killed himself because of it. I've heard similar stories, unfortunately, from actual real life. I was informed at the time my friends had found me suspended and nearly dead that there was a turned-over chair, suspiciously appearing to have been kicked to the side of the human pendulum which I was. A curious other matter was the mirror. It was not broken, nor smashed, nor shattered as my intention. I had every intention to throw it down the stairs. It was found at the edge of the staircase, in pristine condition. Further to the report on the mirror, I was told it had been removed from the house. I was silent, outraged by the blatant disrespect of my friends who did not have permission to extract the mirror. They foolishly returned the mirror to the store where I originally purchased it. It hurts me to think about. Why does my laughter always turn to tears? Why does the hand that holds us let us go? How can we have been held so close to be pushed away to a helpless distance? How can we be judged in eternity when we have only lived a moment? How harsh and unjust would eternal flames be? I am convinced, with no shred of evidence, the manifestation tried to kill me by hanging me on that despicable day. My realm of asphyxiation did not invent what happened. I will make myself well. I will free myself from this institution. I will visit junk and disorderly, and I will bring back my mirror. In an archway of this marvelous apparatus, I swear, I caught a fleeting glimpse of an unexplained blur, a smear of formless blotch. And that's all the time we have for today, everybody. Wow. So, we went from a guy who went psycho and killed his own wife for unknown reasons. Although it doesn't matter. Although she probably didn't deserve it considering she came back for revenge. To a guy who wanted to believe in an afterlife and the fact that he wasn't just a speck in an endless ocean of nonsense so bad that he created a demon in his mirror and tried to kill himself. And I guarantee if you ever go to that sanitarium, he is most definitely going to try it again. The editing possum. Yeah, she got her revenge, that's for sure. That kid's dead 100% deserved what happened to him. I'm almost certain. Like, for sure, she did not deserve to be murdered by an axe. Yeah, the other dude needed to be in the mental hospital. Like, I think he was crazy to begin with, and it just wasn't diagnosed yet because he was a bit of an intellectual. Like, people might have just thought he was a crazy genius or something. No, he was just crazy, I think. I think he was always crazy and suicidal. But, that'll be that for this episode of Spooky Scary Saturday. As previously stated, we're on episode 46. We're almost to episode 50. I'm probably going to do something special for episode 50. Maybe do like a mega marathon of every Dr. Bob video there is. Minus the compilations. But like, we'll sit down and we'll stream the entire Dr. Bob catalog. Because he's always been kind to us. Our saving grace, Dr. Bob. He's a beautiful man. We love him with our hearts dearly. Thank you, Dr. Bob, for always being super awesome. And never trying to take down one of my videos for your videos being in it. You will always have my immense respect and admiration for not being a douchebag about your content. Anyways, that'll be for later. The other important message for today was we're almost. Yeah, it does sound like a ton of fun. The other important information for today is that we're almost to 50 subscribers. I am at 47 subscribers right now. Now, I don't care about my subscriber count all that much. I don't care if I get super popular or get a golden play button or anything like that. That doesn't matter. None of that matters. Okay, I could literally not care less about any of that. I just want genuinely to try to make people happy. So if my videos make you happy, make sure to subscribe if you like to. It's up to you. Anyways, that'll be it for tonight. Stay out of traffic. Stay out of engine compartments. Stay hydrated. Good night. And in case I don't see you again anytime soon, good night, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and everything else in between. Thank you. And I'll see you all again when I'm digging through your garbage.